Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about addictions and families. So, just a brief overview of the topic that I'm going to be discussing today. Addiction is a national pandemic or epidemic affecting many families from around the world. Specifically, with this research proposal, I'm going to be asking how does addiction impact family members? And I do have a study that I cited below, which is the article is titled Parents of Adult Children with Drug Addictions Dealing with Shame and Courtesy Stigma. This article really dives into how parents perceive or how parents are affected by their children's addiction, which I noticed seems to be a gap in the research. But the results of the study found that parents felt um, that they received heavier social stigma and their social lives were very impacted, and about how they were heavily judged in personal relationships. And just a generalized statistic, 1 in 8 children are born into a family where one parent has an addiction problem, according to SAMHSA, or Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration. So the theoretical framework that I'm going to be utilizing throughout this study is going to be the family systems theory. Family systems theory is incredibly applicable to the study, as the family systems theory explores the dynamic of relationships within families, and it emphasizes that all family members are connected. So what one family member does or how one family member behaves will impact another. And this fits in perfectly with my topic because my centralized topic is about how addiction affects family members, and so using that gauge of the family systems theory, understanding that addiction affects all family members is incredibly important way to look at it for me, um, in terms of as I'm studying and reading through the material. And some brief findings. Obviously, my paper that I have along that I'm that I'm going to be posting along with this. It's a lot more in depth, but just briefly to read some of these out, because I'm not going to read all of them out for you because it is written on the screen. One thing I did find interesting is that if even if children perceive their parents as having a more extreme addiction, they will have increased physical and mental health symptoms. So that whether that may be increased anxiety or increased physical symptoms of being sick or ill or just having like um, bad mental health days more than the other people who weren't born in a family with an addiction. I found that incredibly interesting. Um, I also noticed as I went through the research, as I researched this topic, I found that um, a lot of family members share similar consequences. So you'll notice some of the findings on here. Um, Addiction can negatively impact a children's physical and emotional safety. And that also happens to parents as well. Like some parents feel like their emotional and physical safety is affected as well. And so I've noticed that there seems to be echoing of different family members experiencing the same thing, which I found to be interesting throughout the findings. So their experiences echo each other, which again fits in with theoretical frameworks. So my overall research proposal. So my overall research question is, how does addiction affect emotional health of spouses and parents? I chose to research this is because I found that there was a gap in the research in terms of spouses and parents. There were a couple of articles that talked about parents, but I really wanted to focus on spouses because I felt like a lot of the majority of the research focused more on children and their consequences. And while that may be important, spouses and parents' consequences are also important as well. My hypothesis that I'm going to be using is addiction negatively affects the emotional well-being of spouses and parents. And the specific research design I'm going to be using is going to be the mixed methods cross-sectional design. And in this study, qualitative and quantitative data will be collected but analyzed separately, and the results will be compared and interpreted. The study involves a total of 115 participants. They must be 18 years of age or older, and must be a spouse or a parent with someone who's experienced addiction and have regular contact with them. For the quantitative component, data will be collected from 100 participants through a survey or questionnaire, and for the qualitative component, 50 participants will be asked to participate in depth interviews to explore their lived experiences. Inclusion criteria, they must be 18 years or older, an identified spouse or a parent of an individual who has an addiction problem, and they have a direct emotional, social, or financial impact due to their addiction. Exclusion criteria, anyone who under is 18 and individuals who are currently in active treatment for their addiction. And overall sampling design is going to be probability purposeful sampling. This sample cannot be randomized because we are looking for a specific population. And the recruitment will be taking place for community addiction recovery centers and family support centers. Also, Facebook will be something that will be utilized for this study because I think that it's important to also try to get a capture full image of this entire population, and that does include Facebook, that does include support groups online. So that's something that is going to be used. So a total of 115 participants will be included. Of these, 100 participants completed 100 participants completed surveys, and 15 participants participated in qualitative interviews. With the qualitative interviews, again, we are randomly selecting, we're not randomly, we are using 15 participants. With the qualitative interviews, they will be asked if they wish to choose in these interviews. They will always be given the option to back out anytime. So with some diversity considerations, obviously, I will make every effort to make sure that the individuals that are be completing this study are of there's a wide variety of, they come from a wide variety of different cultures. However, because the sample is drawn from a convenience sample, it's something that is convenience. It's something that we're trying to find a specific population. Cultural background and ethnicity considerations will be considered, but first and foremost, getting the correct population in is going to be the number one thing that is most important for this study. Access to participants was obtained through collaboration with local recovery centers and family support programs. Prior to participation, individuals were informed of the study's purpose and confidentiality, and they were given their rights to withdraw at any time. Individuals will also given informed consent once before they will be taking the survey. And measurements, the study looked at the impact of addiction on family members, specifically parents and spouses, and focused on their emotional well-being and coping strategies. So some independent variables would be the presence of a family member's addiction, and the dependent variable would be the emotional stress levels, coping mechanisms, family functioning, and relationship satisfaction. The study used a short survey that included the depression, anxiety, stress scales to measure participants' levels of anxiety, depression, or stress. The DAS-21 was used to measure the responses. And the survey was administered once at a single point during the data collection. And then after, the individuals were asked if they would like to participate in in-depth interviews, and out of 15 that were asked, if those 15 decide to participate, they would be given the interviews once. And just to go over the qualitative phase, 100 participants completed electronic or paper-based surveys distributed through recovery support centers or online formats. Surveys were anonymous and took approximately 30 minutes to complete. 15, and then the qualitative phase, 15 participants were selected from the survey pool using random selection. They were reminded of the fact that they can drop out anytime. This does say random selection, but it's not random selection. It's just we were going to be asking participants. So it is, I apologize, it is random selection, but so we will be asking people at random. In terms of limitations for the study, the overall sample size is small. So it may not truly illustrate the full depth of population that is being affected by addiction. Because this is a qualitative research design with interviews and a smaller sample size, the findings will not be applicable to all families who are affected by addiction. There's also a potential for social desirability bias because this is a sensitive topic. Individuals may choose to lie or not, or say things that may not always be the complete truth because they want to appear better to the interviewee or whoever is giving the survey. For the discussion session, it's also really important to highlight that this study was meant to explore the adverse effects that addiction may have on other members of the family, both emotionally and socially. Using a qualitative research design with personal sampling, it will emphasize or give voice to family members who are affected by addiction. There was not The proposed study will help with the contribute to the advancement of this profession, as it helps to provide a deeper understanding how addiction affects the entire family. And these are my references.